Welcome back to the Coach Kav Show. This is episode 6 with my man Adam Feit. How we doing, man?
Man, episode 6.
That's right, man. Let's rock and roll.
Let's do it, man.
Cool, man. So, we're here at RYPT Performance, and want to talk a little bit about your background, talk some football, because that's what you've been doing for a long time. And tell me a little bit about yourself and your playing experience.
Yeah, well, with playing experience, I got my head start in terms of playing. It wasn't until high school, so actually it was kind of a, didn't have that Pop Warner little league.
No shit.
Yeah, totally, man. I was always a bigger guy, heavier guy, and I just never really, everything was kind of weighed in, scales. And
they don't let those big guys play.
No, man. I'm like, I can't play with these 8th graders. So, I played basketball, baseball my whole life up until high school. And then, strangely enough, man, I'm not afraid to admit it, Varsity Blues came out, and I was like, this football thing looks like a good time, right?
Like whipped cream action and that stuff?
That,
all right, just checking.
But got into that. And that was it, man. I started my freshman year, the whole freshman football thing, learn the game right from the get-go.
Where are you from, though? Like, what state?
Western
Football's
Mass, man,
which
is not a football state.
That's why I was like, I figured you'd be playing hockey with sticks and shit. Yeah.
It's a different area for sure.
Absolutely.
So did that, got around some great mentors, the upperclassmen of the team, and really helped me shape the path and get better, and then earned a spot on the varsity team my sophomore year in high school. Did well. Junior year was probably our best year. Senior year, the whole thing, culture, commitment, execution. Captain of the team. Week before our first game, snapped my arm in half, man.
No shit. And
all of a sudden, man, that whole senior year just kind of gone. So
wow.
That was an opening up experience for me. I didn't really plan on playing in college because I wanted to go to school for academics and do what I could, but I just felt like I couldn't just stop there.
Yeah.
You always remember your last play, and for a lot of us, and that's why I talk to my kids, like, you never know when your last play is. And mine,
only God can control that, not you.
And literally, like, I had no idea it was going to be a scrimmage against Long Meadow a week before our first game.
Wow.
So I did that, gutted out, and fortunately, I made that commitment. I still wanted to play, and Springfield College was right down the road, and had some connections, a nationally ranked Division III program at the time, ranked 4 in the nation, and did what I had to do, and paid my dues all the way up there through, and then eventually ended up captaining that team and became part of a great championship team. My quarterback ended up getting the Heisman Award trophy for Division III football.
Oh, that's awesome.
Set numerous records. Had an All-American year, our last campaign, and won a championship. So
that's cool.
That was my playing experience, and then I knew, hey, I didn't really get the whole coaching football thing, but I love the strength conditioning, so
that's how you slipped into that.
That's it.
It's cool.
Game day.
Tell me what it was like to be on the championship program. A lot of people don't understand that. It's you get one team a year in the state at the high school level. At the college level, there's not very many programs that that win that championship. What's it like?
Well, the biggest thing I learned now being a coach is, the adage of like tradition never graduates is completely true. When I got recruited to play at Springfield, so mind you, this is a Division III football program. Most of the kids now, right? They're like, I'm playing Division I or I'm not, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And that's unfortunate because a lot of experience, like, Division III doesn't matter. Well, when you play for a competitive team and a culture that creates this winning attitude and it doesn't accept mediocrity, you're going to be just fine. And I remember going on my recruiting visits, Division III, and they're saying, you're not going to play until your junior year.
And you're like, what are you talking about? I'm a Division III. I can play Division I.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I was all state. I was all region. I was captain of my team. And that's the biggest thing I see with working with today's youth, especially with some of the football players that come in for, let's say, speed and agility work, is I'm looking at him and I said, all right, talk me through it. He goes, our program is built on our upperclassmen, the brotherhood of who's been here and put in their dues. So you learn the system your freshman year. You go ahead, you come in your sophomore year, try to get a seat on the bus, right? We all want to travel, we want to do this, be ready. But man, your goal is to start your junior year. And I was like, this is where I want to play because that's a program that I want to be a part of because it's not just come in one and done, wine and dine. You're going to play for us. You're going to play for us. Right? We hear that all the time with recruiting, right? You can.
That ain't true though. That's the fun part.
When you hear
oh shit,
back of all these players that come back, like, coach said this. I said, man, unfortunately, coaches will say a lot of things.
Whatever they can do to get you in the door.
That's it.
Because at that point, it's a numbers game. They just need the bodies.
Right. And when they get you, then they're like, okay, we'll see you in August. And
exactly.
That's about it. So,
and that's why at the Division III level, with the programs that are, not at the high caliber of where you played, the transfer rate or the dropout rate is so high that freshman year, and it's mainly for 2 reasons. Number one, the caliber of program isn't elite, and what I mean by elite is not necessarily the level of play, but the level of culture, the organization, the structure, and the demands that they actually want to put on the athlete. Every high school kid, you might hate it from your parents or from some people, but you kids are thriving off of discipline and structure. That's why the best programs, whether it be the Patriots and teams like that, it's because they got somebody in charge that runs the ship a certain way. And at the Division III level, whether it be Division I or all the way down to Division III, the best programs are driven by the best captains of the ship.
And you said a great point there, Kav, is discipline, right? Yeah. I had to pay for my own gear. I didn't get Under Armour sponsorships. I didn't get Nike throwaways. We paid for Boathouse, the Boathouse windsuit, right? You had to pay for your own white polo to get onto the bus to travel. You paid your own meal block. And that was something I learned from any level. I coached Division I football at University of Louisville, Eastern Michigan. I was at Arizona State. I did my graduate assistant at the Citadel. I've seen programs at every level going to the NFL. And something about that Division III mentality of working hard, blue collar, chip attitude to make sure, hey, what I get is a direct reflection of the work that I put in. And that's something I look for with any type of athlete, male, female, any type of sport. Is what are you going to do when it's not given to you? Are you going to go out there and take it, or are you just going to make it an excuse?
Yeah, and the biggest thing that what I would say to that is, like, you're going to pay for it regardless. Either you're going to pay for it in your time, your effort in the gym and in the classroom while you're in high school, or you're going to pay through it via cash.
Yeah, that's
and
it. It doesn't mean you're guaranteed.
Yeah, exactly.
Cash,
something, you know, you could have the talent, whether it be God-given, and you're a big guy, and you're a big dude. Like, let's not take that away from you.
A lot bigger, man.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Long gone.
So, but I mean, you're a big dude. You're a strong guy. You're strongest guy in 3 states, which is a pretty damn cool thing to say.
Retired for sure.
I don't know about that. He can still push some weight around, but it's like you're gonna pay that sacrifice somewhere, and whether it be through cash, right? Whether paying your tuition or paying your dues, or you're going to pay it in the weight room or in years and time. And you get to choose. Either you can fast forward that track as an athlete by putting your work in earlier in your life, or later by making those mistakes and not being as happy.
And then another great point, put in the work now as an athlete, because as a coach, we are only looking at athletes. There's something about hiring an athlete as a coach that's going to separate everybody from else. It's commitment, it's sacrifice, it's discipline, it's accountability, it's attention to detail. And I've seen that. I've had interns that were not college athletes. There is a special hybrid, some sort of mentality that we know as athletes, now as coaches.
And they're competitors. They're competitors. They're game changers. They're people that want to go out there and be like, look, I want the ball in the fourth quarter when it's game time, and there's actually pressure. Versus the guy who's never been in that situation before, and he wears a suit and a tie, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they don't understand during crunch time in your career. That's why the average person coming out of college that had played a college sport is a 15% greater starting salary.
How about that?
So that's a money changer long term, but at the end of the day, you got to be able to get there first, because if you're not there, who gives a crap, what's going to happen?
Yeah,
you got to be able to get there.
And finish it.
If you don't, how many people
your
quit?
Freshman year, right? How many guys? We have a tradition at Springfield College called burning of the old shoe, and not to get into too much detail, but essentially, this shoe symbolizes our career. And so they find an old cleat that was left in the equipment room, and at the last day, the last home practice, we like to sing on fire, and all the seniors go around and they talk about their experiences, who they've met, and the impact people have had. I mean, I was at a school that my sophomore year we had 200 people in camp, right?
Holy shit.
Sophomore year and freshman year, high numbers, and by the end of it, man, it was in the teens. In reality, it was less than 10 guys that I started with that finished this thing. So again, talk about everything. Starting, man, anybody can start, right? You can start fast, no problem. Speed kills, bro. Speed kills at the end. You gotta finish it out.
It doesn't matter how fast you start. If you don't follow it through, that finish line just keeps getting further away. Not just from a distance standpoint, but your time window shuts down too.
Oh yeah.
Because once
it
it doesn't. This is their best life right now.
Husband, changes. These college athletics, man, they are the best of your life.
So you went from playing, right, and that's been on championship program. Then you went into your coaching career, and you've been all over the place. Ended up at the Carolina Panthers. What was that like?
Man, I'll tell you what, it was a big wake-up call for me, because essentially, while I played on championship teams, unfortunately, in my career, I was never on a championship team as a coach.
Oh, wow.
And that was a big wake-up call, because, again, the culture that you create, the places that you go, I had always gone and left prior because you just keep getting promoted, and that really affected me. So, I went from graduate assistant at the Citadel I went to University of Louisville as a part-time assistant to a full-time assistant. Staff changes come in. Then I took over a struggling program that hasn't won since the 80s at Eastern Michigan. You talk about trying to change the culture there. Won 2 games that season, had an amazing offseason. As soon as I left, they had their best season ever. That gets me to the NFL, and that's where I'm like, listen, it's about, 1, relationships, but number 2, results with a capital R. Because these guys are the master of their craft. Their repetitions, and we talked about, we had this 3-set rule that, my boss Joe Ken talks about, the first time you can take a movement through, an athlete can come from any type of training background. And you might look at it as a coach and be like, oh, okay, all right, not exactly what I'm looking for. Let me coach you up a little bit. And then set 2, you're like, yeah, that's pretty much it. And then by the 3rd time they do that, you talk about skill acquisition at this level, the 3rd time it's looked like they've been doing it for years.
Well, they're master movers and probably some of the best athletes in the world.
Oh, no question.
And they both physically, they're God gifted, but also mentally, their mentality is just different. They understand, number 1, I think they understand why they're there, and it starts with that. And then number 2, they understand that, okay, if I know why I'm here, this guy is obviously an expert. They're going to get me better. Then now I'm able to make more money.
Yep. And the big thing, I mean, they talk about, I believe it was Rick Pitino had a book about like the one-day contract, right? Literally at that type of level, there's not much guaranteed money. So athletes are going in, you're doing this. I would see guys on Sunday, and then they'd be off the team by Tuesday. And it was a results-driven business. Not for the fans, not for the coaches, but for organizations and the whole entire league in terms of this is about winning. And what we do on Sunday is dictated by your behaviors throughout the week, not only in the practice facility, not only in the weight room and in the film room, but also what you're doing outside here. And I worked with a lot of guys that understood that and took care of that. And little things like going to camp, right? Camp is tough. And the players that went through camp and executed and dominated the season, they were not staying up all night playing Xbox.
You can't.
You can't. And you look at the vets and you look at the free agents, you look at the rookies coming in and all this, and my experience in the NFL was very short, but it was a clear-cut difference of the guys that could stay, the guys that could last and continue to produce results was much different than these new guys coming in.
So it's the idea, like, if you're a high school athlete, you have a choice, right? Do you want to stay up all night and play Xbox, or do you actually want to get up, rest, and make the most out of your day the next day? Or do you actually want to put out that time in either an Xbox, on PlayStation, or on social media, or do you want to put that time in the books because you got to get the grades so they're able to even recruit you? You got to choose, because again, you're going to pay the price one way or the other.
Yeah, and then to build on that, like I always tell people, young kids, like I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. Everybody's got time for something.
Everyone has the same amount of time too. Why are you bitching about the shit you can't do?
You're choosing to do something else. And so when people say no to something, hey coach, can I get your help on this? No, I'm busy. When you're saying no to something, you're really saying yes to something else. And that at that time in that period of your life is more important to what that is. And as a coach, that gets me fired up if I need help with something, right? But you have to make these values and priorities. But as an athlete, hey, what should you be doing? You know what you should be doing. You can do that. You're just choosing not to right now.
So if you're an athlete and you have your priorities in order, don't you think that you're going to get a better result because that's the number one thing in your life that you're trying to get out of, out of what you want out of that day? The next thing is, if you're putting in the work as a coach now, if the kid's coming into you and they put the work and they're asking you for help, you got to beg kids to help them, and they don't even see it sometimes. But if a kid comes to you and says, Coach, listen, I get it, I really want to do this, you're going to put 10 times more of the amount of effort into him.
Yep.
And then things start to fall your way.
Absolutely. One thing I learned, working with precision nutrition, one of our, Jeff Gerwitz that we know, we have this analogy about, care units, right? So imagine, you're a player, hey, Coach, I want to get a Division I scholarship. What does this mean to you? And you measure the amount of level of caring. I think of like Tetris blocks. Remember that game? All over the place, right?
I mean, other than Pac-Man, I'm the dude.
All right, so we're dating ourselves a little bit right here.
Too much.
But imagine, you've got a block of 10 Tetris blocks, and you're at an 8, and you want to care. But I care at a 9. If I care as your coach more about you getting that scholarship and you paying the way, getting your job done more than you, it will never work. And as coaches, we have to learn there has to be a drive, there has to be a degree of readiness and willingness and ableness to get that. So because if I'm your coach and I want this more than you, I'm sorry, man, it'll never happen.
So you're just putting blocks on top of blocks, but if you at the fundamental level, because that's whose life it is, if you don't have all of those boxes checked, what ends up happening is that the coach's stuff builds on top of it, and then at some point it's just going to implode.
Yeah, and you have to realize that. And you got to also understand too, athletes won't give you 100% every day, but you have to expect 100% of whatever they can give you, and that's relative intensity, right? We talk about it in the weight room, right? We're in the gym right now, people are lifting in between the conference, and hey, you're not gonna be able to max out every day. You can't go west side max effort all the time. So if an athlete comes in and hey, you're working with a college athlete, and they've got a young child, and they're working third shift at Home Depot like I did in college to pay my bills. I was working till 3 in the morning, driving back, taking a 2-hour nap, and going to 6 a.m. lift. My coaches knew, hey man, Adam's tapped right now. But listen, what do you got, man? I'm probably at about like a B-, B+ right now. Hey, all right, man, you give me 100% of that. And then over time, constantly good efforts are going to be awesome over then, hey, let's just dominate once a week.
So, but talking about that towards, you take that exact same thought process towards academics. Some of you kids think that you're just not that good in a specific subject, whether it be math or English or science, right? You should be crushing PE. If you frickin' kids don't have an A in physical education, it's ridiculous. My dad made a simple rules. You show up with anything less than that, you're gonna, there's gonna be a problem. The other stuff we understand because everyone has different learning curves. However, though, if you come in that day and you're a B- and you don't give 100%, you're going to be a C. And then that's the game changer when it comes to you compounding that over time. That 2.0 ain't going to help you.
That's the slight edge right
there. That's the difference. Don't be average. That's the problem. Is that
Eric Thomas says that all the time.
That's right.
Allergic to average. Right?
I mean, if I want to be part of the 1%, how am I supposed to get away with being average in the classroom, average in the weight room, average at home? Because if I do what everybody else does, I'm going to get what everyone's got. if I want to get something that nobody else has done before, or just a rare percentage of people in this world that have, then I got to do something that's way outside of the comfort zone of what I'm used to, and very different than what my friends are doing and what everybody in the building is doing.
Yep. And like I look at it as a coach, especially we're talking about the conditioning earlier, and I'm not looking at who's finishing first. I'm not looking at who's finishing last. I'm looking at who's just doing just enough to not be noticed, because that's the first place I'm looking, because you're not standing out. And constantly evaluation. Hey, you may be only at an 80% of health that day, but I want 100% of that. And if you constantly go forward, like the Kaizen principle, just a little bit improvement every single day, that multiplies, man. Like I said earlier, it's slight edge. Over time, man, you can make a choice. And over time, you make good choices, your success is going to exponentially increase. But you keep going along the same pathway, and then you go low, it's all over the place.
So, like, you talk about guys that are just at that level, the highest level, and where you coach. Cam Newton, what's that like? What's that like?
Puts in the work, man. I mean, obviously a genetic freak, complete hard worker, and he's done an incredible job as I've moved on of taking care of himself, and they're with an incredible organization and great coaches there, so it's really kudos to them. But those guys understand.
But he doesn't just cash it in.
Not at all. And people say, "Oh man, they just got good genetics. They just show up."
He's a freak. Let's just be real. He's a dude.
Show up. So it doesn't matter if you're getting paid $12 million a year, if you're getting paid $50 million. Hell, if you're on the practice squad, barely making it, man, you still have to put in the work and constantly go ahead and fine tune that craft. Those guys at any level, Division III, NFL, MLB, NBA, man, the greatest ones. They're watching film. They're taking care of their bodies. They're training hard, but they're also living harder in terms of what can I do to recover.
That's awesome. And it's amazing to me that as if you're not that genetic freak and then you still want to kind of get to that level, and then that guy's putting the work in, like, you got to see, like, if you don't have all of this and you only put in 80%, 50% effort, well, what do you think you're going to cap out at? Because Cam Newton's ceiling is a lot greater than mine.
Oh, no doubt.
But he puts in 100%, so he caps out on all of it.
Right.
Versus the guy that only has this much of the ceiling and doesn't use everything. And then on the flip side is like, hey, I got kids that are 5'9", and they're studs Division I athletes now because they put the work in, and they are jacked out of their mind. They're 205, 5'9", and they're on a 4.4 because they did everything. They tapped out their genetic potential, and they basically checked every box, and they made sure that they didn't leave anything on the table.
Yeah, but I mean, like, let's take the New England Patriots right now, right? Guy goes down, next guy back up.
Guy goes down, next guy goes up.
And it's a constant carousel. One, you never know when your opportunity is going to shine. And two, if that fourth string quarterback, whoever he is right now, if he's not putting in his time and staying up to date with his studies and his plays and his cooking and he's taking care of his body, hey man, he's not going to be ready. So the culture that we create as coaches and in organizations, we've got to go ahead and echo that and radiate that down to any level, because the greatest teams, the dynasties, the organizations, the coaches, the networks, whatever it is in the players, everybody's on the same page. So if you're the head coach and your message isn't getting echoed by your strength coach, or if you're an athlete and you're not keeping your teammates accountable, guess what, man? You're only going to win your battle, and that's fine. But guess what? We've got a whole collective unity of making sure we're on the same page to dominate, and it's not going to happen if everybody's doing their own thing.
So let's talk accountability for a second, because I mean, you just mentioned the Patriots, right? And they're on their fourth string quarterback, and their first string quarterback, definitely first ballot Hall of Famer. Whatever you feel about the sport, the team doesn't matter to me. Can't argue with the results.
Absolutely.
You can't. At the end of the day, they win. And they're in their fourth quarterback right now, and they're still putting up a W, and that's the result. And it's the group have to keep them accountable. It can't just come from the coach. It's got to come from everywhere. Well, what do you tell the athletes about just accountability?
Right there, it starts with yourself. Being accountable is doing what you're saying you're going to do when, that's integrity, when nobody else is looking. It's having that discipline to do the things you don't want to do so you can enjoy the things that you do want to do, right? And I know in organizations like that we're talking about, everything is competition. We talk about it, hey, that's what life is about. You're competing right now for a spot. Guess what? When you open a place like this, you're competing to keep kids back in here.
Yeah.
When you get married, you're competing to make sure that you keep your spouse happy so that he or she's not looking for somebody else. When you're a dad, you're competing to make sure that you're earning the love and trust of your kids. There is no end to competition. And those that stop competing and those that stop being accountable to their actions, those are the players, those coaches, the fathers, the husbands, the mentors, they lose. And I'm not about losing, man.
No, and that's the thing. So that's the difference between the winner's mentality and the guy that's just average, and then when they take a loss, it just doesn't hurt them that much because they haven't put the time in. So for me, the way I like to look at things is like, you got to be the best version of yourself but every day. And then you want to beat that guy yesterday. Like, I want to kick my own ass.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that I want to
see. That's what's great
see.
about the sport of like powerlifting, for instance.
Yeah.
I did my first powerlifting when I was 23, man. I did a nice little raw meet out in Kentucky when I was coaching at Louisville, set a couple records, did this, that, the other. But I went in there and I had great coaches that were like, man, you probably won't win this because of your bench solo. You've never deadlifted before, so let's just, but guess what? Set your marks. And then the next meet you do, you try and break those marks. And that's what, if you're continually trying to improve yourself and better your craft, that's it. Because you start rising. We always talk about, man, like all ships rise with the tide. They rise up, and then they rise down.
Go down too.
So guess what? If I'm going to continually rise up, guess what? The other ship behind me, they're going to keep going too. And it's addressing that as a young player. Saying, hey, you got to call them out, man. Like, you got to figure out what responds. But hey, some players respond better to getting on them in public. You do that. Some players respond a little bit more to a private strategy. Whatever it is, man, keeping everybody on the same level and rising everybody up, man, you're going to dominate it.
Where do you get your energy from? I mean, you've been doing this a while. I mean, I know you were 300 plus pounds. You were a big offensive lineman. Now you're in really damn good shape. You're a nutrition's employee. You keep yourself accountable because you know what you want. But where do you get your energy from? I mean, you're constantly coaching. You're constantly working. I've seen your guys. They're moving well.
I think that's a good point. For me, I talk with a lot of coaches about your why, right? We all talk about. I remember being a young player, and it was like, what's your goal in life? And I was like, man, I'm gonna be the head Division I strength coach. And then it was like, that's it? Like, that's the purpose, right? So like Simon Sinek talks about that, like with his golden circle. So, you got your whys, you got your hows, you got your whats. People ask me, hey, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I'm a strength coach, right? Or a gym owner, etc. Well, that's great. And a lot of people in businesses start there, and then you shouldn't. But then you go into the next circle, and then it's how. And it's like, okay, well, you're a strength coach. Well, how do you strength coach? Oh, I get kids bigger, faster, stronger, yada, yada, yada. It's a whole thing.
And that's the easy part for us.
Yeah, man, it's so easy.
They just got to put the work in. Yeah, they got to put the work in.
But I start at the why. And the why for me is to go ahead and leave an impact that's not only going to be memorable, but it's going to change as many lives as possible in positive fashions worldwide. So whether that's speaking on a national circuit, whether that's educating coaches in clinics like this, whether that's being a great dad so my son understands what it's like so he can be a great dad, it's about impact for me. And so when I get up, if it's 4:08 in the morning, or if I'm staying up and I'm doing things, or if I'm trying to find a better life-work balance, because there's no real life-work balance. You have your on seasons and your off seasons.
There's priorities.
Exactly. And a great coach, a great man, a great whoever you're going to be requires that balance of, hey, what am I valuing right now? What are my priorities? But number one, what's my why? And for us here at RYPT, it's about helping kids reach their potential. Understand that what they're capable of, but I want to see what type of people are they going to be in 10 to 20 years.
Absolutely. That's the scoreboard that matters.
Exactly, because the lessons we echo here in training are the same lessons learned in life. If you're late to a training session, that's no different than a job interview. If you're not touching the line with your feet for the shuttles, that's the same thing as misspelling somebody's name on a resume. So if you
cut a line short,
that's it, man.
It's going to be cut short in a lot of other areas of your life.
And I'll credit to Jim Critzy from Kennesaw right now.
Yeah,
he put up that great photo.
Job.
Man, he put up a photo and took a snapshot of one of his players. He said the difference between winning and losing is this much. And it was this one player in a team sprinting drill right there a foot away from the line. That is the littlest thing. And if you do that over time, man, it's just going to add up to bigger and bigger things.
Absolutely. Well, there's no doubt that you're making an impact. And there's no doubt as athletes that you have a choice to kind of write your own history. But you got to figure out what your why is and have a bigger purpose. That's the thing is, like, as athletes, is like my identity, who I look at myself in the mirror as when I was a player is like, I'm an athlete. Mm-hmm. What type of athlete are you? Because if that is going to be your focal point, why don't you be the best damn athlete you could be? And why don't you take that and go, okay, that's going to allow me to build a bigger platform to be able to make the best impact as a person. Because if I suck as an athlete, I don't get that college scholarship. If I don't go to the school that I want to go to, I maybe lose out on the connections. If I don't maybe finish my college career, then I don't get the financial outcome that I could get if I had a better opportunity from a better school and maybe had different experiences of being, hey, you're that dude that won a national championship. Hey, you're that guy that was on this play. Or, hey, you're a part of that program. It's a family. So you can be the best person you can be, but like figure it out. And at your age, guys, you have a chance to literally write your past right now, every single day. You get to change your yearbook. You get to change the way people view you because you haven't really been on this earth that long anyways. If you're a high school kid, one single adjustment could compound and change the entire, future for you. And if you do that, I honestly feel that you're going to be able to make a bigger impact beyond even sports. And then you no longer identify yourself as an athlete, but you identify yourself with somebody who's making an impact, which is what you're doing right now.
And that's a big thing to remember there is because as athletes, that's all we are, right? What do you want to do? I want to play X. I want to play Y. I'm going to go ahead and accomplish this. There may be a day, like I thought that one day in 2003, I'm no longer a football player. And I had to go ahead and do a self-reflection at the age of 17. Like, that's deep stuff, man. But guess what? For a lot of us, man, we talk about the 1%. It's the 1% of the 1% that really make that
Absolutely.
athletic endeavor. Who are you outside of that? I guess this isn't philosophy 101, but it's realizing, hey, there's going to be a day, sometimes it's going to be over, right? I've got a lot of great roommates, man. Hey, they're not playing offensive line anymore. But are they taking care of their bodies? They're teachers now. They're computer software developers. They're prison, guards. What are we doing, and what's your purpose? For me, man, it's not about clocking in and clocking out, but you're going to have to do a little bit of a review and figure out, hey man, who am I? And what do I want to get out of this life? Because guess what? That phase of life, it's kind of over right now.
And it goes by quick. That window is closing fast. And what they don't realize is that the smaller the window gets, the less opportunities they have to fill it. And once you get through it, it is what it is. Like, I'm a true believer, there's no such thing as a good or a bad opportunity. It's the preparation for that opportunity that matters. And that if you are prepared, no matter what comes in front of you, you'll take full advantage of it. And like, these kids have a chance to actually change the way those opportunities are presented to them because they're ready for anything. Yeah. And I just want to say thanks. I mean, you absolutely helped me tremendously, in my career. You're a person to look up to. I mean, kids, if you have had an injury, whether it be, physical or life-changing as far as like your career path, I know for a fact that obstacle is just for a short period in time. So it's not going to change the entire scope of your life,
right,
unless you want it to.
Absolutely.
And you could change it for the better, or you could change it for the average.
You're the captain of your own ship.
That's it. And you get the choice, dude, where do I want to ride this thing? Or do I want to be blind and end up like the Titanic?
Yeah, well, we all know how that worked out, right?
Yeah,
so you're going to get to that cross, man, and it's like, I can go here or I can go here. You know what? Why don't you just create a new one, man? And that's what a lot of us have done. And hey, it doesn't always have to be A or B. Where's the other option? Where's that third dimension that we're not even thinking about? Those are the innovators. Those are the creative ones. Those are the ones that make that impact. Those are the ones we're reading about on our blogs, on our phones at 11 o'clock at night. Those are the guys that make that impact.
And, those are the kids that these athletes are looking up to because they've put the work in, whether they have the the genetics and they have tapped out on the genetic potential. All I'm telling you is if you want to make an impact, then you got to do something now. You can't wait. Because when you do wait, you're going to have to then reflect. And again, I don't want you to be average, right? So be a game changer, right?
Not,
be a
man.
competitor.
That's it. That's all
hey, thank you. Keep making an impact.
Coach,
Absolutely, man. You got it. Thanks. Hey, thank you guys. As athletes, you got to step your game up. Let's go to work.